Now, in this one, it is a separate module which is called as attractor neural networks. Okay. Now, what is it actually basically into this one? Let us, we are all studied about neural networks, different configurations, how do you optimize the weights, what are the constraints, and many things we have studied in the previous three modules. Now, once again, a little bit of biology. What actually we are doing here is, suppose that you hear a old song, okay, or 10 years old song. What will you feel actually at that moment? Anybody? You participate in the discussion because I want your opinion before I start here. Okay, all of you participate in the discussion. Okay, suppose you hear, let us say you come across your old friend, okay, a high school friend or a private school friend. What will you immediately feel?
Nostalgia.
Okay, you will remember so many, you will have so many feelings. Okay, where you used to sit, where you used to go to school, or who are your friends, what they are doing, all those feelings you will get immediately. And let us say you hear a old song. What will you, at that moment, what that comes to your mind?
Old memories.
Yeah, see here, not one or two. It is a host of memories that will come to you at that instant of moment. But how it is possible? You don't remember only one line of the song. Let us say you went to that movie. Let us say on which day, something like that. Okay, with whom you went. There is host of memories that will come to you in that picture. So human brain has a special property of associating a present object with all the memories it has in the past. So that above how actually it can do, how it is able to do that, can we build the network which is very similar or some way at least which will resemble this kind of network is the basis of attractor neural network. Okay, now what we will do is the basics of all the feelings or emotions what we get are the part of hippocampus in the brain. There is a part known as hippocampus which is deep embedded in the brain. It is not directly visible on the outer surface. It is embedded in the brain. The neurons in the hippocampus readily display long-term and permanent increase in activity on certain patterns of stimulation. Remember, why you cannot remember all these things is because all those memories have stored in your brain. So those memories which are stored in the brain will suddenly come to you moment when some sort of stimulation is given to you. So it is responsible for permanent storage of memory of some activity or some feeling or anything. So hippocampus is basically responsible for permanent storage of some information, like either mathematics or something information, visual, verbal, non-verbal, or anything. So those are the how actually they are able to do. A rough diagram is given to you. See here, a perforant fiber is present, fibers like structures are present, and this is a dentate region which are granular cells are present in this one, and this is actually a neuron, only one neuron is there. After that one, let us say a structure known as mossy fiber is present, which will once again go to a region known as CA3 region. After CA3 region, the connections will go to CA1 region. Basically, CA1 region is responsible for your long-term memories. Okay, so you need not have to remember all the parts, but basically remember there is a CA1 region and CA3 region which are connected through a set of neurons which when get activated continuously, that will aid into permanent storage of memory. Okay, one simple question. Let us say you learned ABCD a long back. Okay, perhaps around let us say 15 to 16 years back. Can you reproduce all ABCD letters now? Can you write all A to Z letters now?
Yes, sir.
Yes. But how it is possible? But you learned very long back now. How it is possible?
Perm- Permanent storage.
Because it is a because you have repeatedly written them many times. You have practiced writing A to Z, and after that you wrote words and then sentences, and you use those words continuously. For example, any language you learn and don't use it for a long time, you are going to forget that. What actually happens in brain is the structure, the CA1 structure is entirely responsible for producing permanent memory in the brain. Okay, so the perforant fiber pathway runs to the glandular cells and then to the dentate region, and they send axon that form the mossy fiber pathway to the cells in the CA3 region. Finally, CA3 regions project these axon into CA1 regions. Ultimately, all these connections will go to CA1 region, which have special cells known as pyramidal cells. These are cells which are present only in this part of the region and which are present in the hippocampus. Okay, so what happens is the strength of excitatory post-synaptic potential, this we call it as EPSP. Okay, excitatory post-synaptic potential increases in response to stimulus strain, and this change can last anything from hours to weeks. What actually happens is when the neurons which are present here are excited continuously or for a short duration, excitement will be short duration, but this is done multiple times. That is from the CA3 region, because there is a connection here, from this is goes here, and one more connection. There are many connections that will come to a single neuron. So there is a pre-synaptic. Synapse is nothing but connection of one neuron into another neuron. So there is pre-synaptic voltage and post-synaptic voltage. So both must be very high in order to register it clearly in the memory. See here, there are some topics which, let us say, will affect you so much so that you will store it for a long time. But all the things that happen in everyday today, you are not going to store. And brain is organized such that 80% of the information which is irrelevant will be rejected by human brain. That is actually a boon. Otherwise, we could not take entire responses, whatever comes to us in our daytime. That remains meaningless and it will be useless also. So brain filters the information whichever is really needed, okay, and then that will be used in the permanent storage area. Okay, all the things are not stored permanently. That's why when studying, we ask you to study repeatedly, because otherwise what happens, whatever you study once and you will forget very easily. Those cells in this CA3, CA1 region are responsible for producing long-term potentiation, which is called as LTP. Okay, so CA1 LTP, that is LTP present in the three important properties you have: cooperativity, associativity, and specificity. What is the meaning of cooperativity? Cooperativity implies that CA1 LTP cannot be produced by activating one fiber. See here, here you have CA1 fiber. I have shown the CA1 region which has shown only one fiber, but just by activating one fiber, you will not be able to activate them. So what happens? CA1 region gets activated when a group of fibers get activated at the same time and continuously. Okay, so some group of fibers will get the intimation, yes, this is to be activated, and those things will send the information, yes, this should be registered onto the memory, and then only CA1 LTP will be activated. Otherwise, no. And one more thing, see here, there is a minimum number of fibers that must be activated together to achieve LTP. And next, when both strong and weak excitatory inputs arrive in the same dendrite region of pyramidal cell, okay, when strong emotions are coming and weak information is also coming, weak input gets potentiated if it is activated in association with a strong one. What actually happens when both sets of voltages are going to come, one is a weak voltage and a strong voltage, both of them gets registered if they occur continuously for long time. Okay, but both of them will register only when it will occur with a strong one. If the voltage level is lesser than certain threshold, then that will not get registered also, and it should occur multiple number of times, otherwise it will be useless. Okay, only once you send the information means it will not get registered. That is a very important thing you have to understand while going for the permanent memory. Okay, and last point here, the LTP requires depolarization of the post-synaptic neuron, and this depolarization must coincide with stimulus from presynaptic neuron. What actually happens is, consider a section of the neuron here, Actually, there is a connection here, one connection outside and one connection inside. There should be a continuous communication. Pre-synaptic connection also there must be excitation, and post-synaptic connection also there must be excitation. That is, in the neuronal connection, here also there must be excitatory inputs present, and here also there must be excitatory inputs present, and they should not depolarize very quickly. Okay, so as long as this excitation is much more than the threshold, then only this LTP will get registered. Otherwise, this will not get registered. Okay, are you able to follow this one? It is actually basically biology, but what you have to understand is how actually the emotions or any information get stored in the brain as the permanent information. Information may be anything, but it is stored as a permanent emotion. Then what happens? It becomes difficult to erase. Okay, are you able to follow? Any doubt? Any doubt till now?
Sir, can I just briefly explain again, sir?
Sure. Yeah. See here, actually, the what you have to understand is the emotions or activities are directly registered in the CA1 region because of the presence of multiple activations that are encountered in the multiple fibers. One fiber activation will not get registered. The multiple fibers which are connected to the CA1 region, when the signals are sent, number of signals are sent and repetitively. For example, let us say 1 second, 10 signals are sent. After 1 second, another 10 signals. After 1 second, another 10 signals. This repetitively should be sent. Once this is repetitively sent, this means that that information is very important and that needs to be stored. And that will be stored in the CA1 region. Once that is stored in the CA1 region, that will become a permanent memory. Okay, that is the whole idea behind storage of the permanent memory. For example, let us say, for example, when it occur, actually all this permanent storage will occur when the childhood, early childhood. Even adults also we keep learning. But only thing is, whatever you read as a script, it is difficult to remember. I think you have observed that. Which is very easy to understand, a textbook or a movie? Any of you? Which is very easy to understand?
Movie.
Movie, sir.
Why? Because human brain is organized in such a way that it can understand visual information. Movie, you'll have visual information and you have audio information also. That is why it is easy to reconnect. And also, this information easily gets stored inside the brain. But whatever is written as a text, as a script, for example, a textbook. So every line you cannot remember. Even if you read it for 15 minutes, you will not be able to reproduce each and every word of this paragraph, because we don't remember it like this. Human brain is very poor in remembering the script. So you have what is the best way to write understand this one? You have to repetitively write and practice. When you write and practice, some part of the information gets stored in CA1 region, then it becomes a memory. Okay, so memory process is how when you store it as a permanent memory is when the information goes to that part repetitively. If information goes only once, then it will not be stored. It will be a temporary memory which brain erases. Okay, brain erases all the temporary information that every day you are going to get. Only some percent of the information which are repetitively given, you will form the permanent memory. That is happening in the pyramidal cells of the CA1 region. CA1 region is very important from this one. And which is where CA1 region is present? It is present in the hippocampus. Okay, hippocampus and amygdala are the part of the brain which are responsible for our basic behavior and knowledge. By chance this gets damaged, hippocampus gets damaged in an accident or something in one or the other way, then person will not be able to have a long-term memory. He'll not be able to recognize anybody, because all the memories, the father, mother, brother, sister, all those relations, we remember them because of the long time. Those relations are lost because they are stored in the hippocampus. Okay, this is the very important part which stores the memory. Are you able to follow them? Any doubt?
No, sir.
Okay, now Let us see what actually as an engineer we look at. This all we looked into actually a biological term. So let us see what actually we learn as an engineer. Once when an axon of cell A excites cell B, okay, consider two cells, cell A and cell B. Between the cells there will be connections. These connections are known as axon. I'll show you here. See here, this is one cell, this is CA3 region one cell, this is another one CA cell. How they are connected? They are connected to a thick wire, whatever I shown. This is called as an axon. Axon is a major wire which connects actually. So, and repeatedly takes parts in firing gate. So, when a cell A continuously fires cell B, some growth process or metabolic change will happen in one or both cells. So, both cell A and cell B, some metabolic changes will occur within the cell so that A's efficacy means transmission of information, whatever A knows, as one of the cells firing in B is increased. So, it means to say that whatever A knows, that will be understood by B also. Because A keeps telling, this is the information, so that after repetitively telling, that information is understood by B also. And this process continues, and a group of neurons will participate in learning and remembering what is understood. It is not important to only understand certain things. You must be able to remember it also. When you are not able to remember, even if you understand, it is of no use. So when you understand what has happened, it should be immediately made into a permanent storage. That is done by repetitive firing of another neurons. So A fires B and B in turn fires C, so on and so forth. There is some group of neurons are fired, and those all neurons will have like a permanent memory. And those neuron B also will understand what neuron A has already understood. This is how learning will take place in human beings. Okay. The synaptic change that occurs is proportional to the conjunctive activity of pre and post synaptic neurons. What is happening is A is connected to B, and B is connected not only to A but C, D, E also. There are many neurons which are get interconnected. It is not that A only fires that will give the information. The conjunction of A firing along with the other neurons which are firing with reference to the neuron B will initiate the learning. Okay, so when multiple neurons fire repeatedly, so this will once again make this neuron B also understand. And what happens next? This B also participating in training the neuron C, and this process continues. Then group of neurons have understood, okay, the information. Suppose that today you want to learn the bicycle. What will happen? Initially, you will know the controls. So moment in 5 minutes you will learn? No, one control only you'll be able to learn. So initially you'll make mistake. So suppose you fall down. So you will come to know if you do that, you are going to fall. That information is registered. So this repeatedly forms your knowledge base how you can ride a bicycle. Okay, so once this information keeps accumulating, you'll become a good driver. Okay, see here one very important thing. Suppose you are driving, every second you will be concentrating. Yes or no? Every second you will concentrate on the road or not? Anybody? Every second you will be concentrating, or your mind goes out somewhere.
No, sir.
Every second you are concentrating.
No, sir.
No, because then, but how it is possible to drive then? If you're even though you're not concentrating a fraction of second or 1 or 2 seconds.
Muscle memory.
Yeah, see here, this is done. Whatever connections you are established, college to, let us say, home to your college, you are coming, you know the route. Therefore, automatically those connections which are programmed, how is the route to the college, will take you from that one. Okay, every second you may not do, you may be remembering something else, but still you will go in the same way. Why? Because these cells are permanently programmed so that you will not miss the route of the college. Okay, but if you are going in totally unknown way, then what you have to do? You have to concentrate on the road every time. Okay, so that let us say this place, where is this place, where is this place, you have to search, because that information is not known to you. That is the difference between already stored memory and new information getting registered in this one. Okay, now let us look little bit deep into the biology. NMDA synapse as a model for LTP. One thing you remember, there are special receptors on the dendrites, okay, called N-methyl D-aspartate. Okay, N-methyl D-aspartate is a chemical actually that is popularly known as NMDA. You will use NMDA only. Let us consider here, this is one neuron section, whatever I have shown you here. There is another neuron section. Two neurons are separated by certain gaps. Though two neurons are directly connected, all the neurons are connected chemically actually. What happens is, when the neuron uses a term known as glutamate. Glutamate is a chemical which used by one neuron to communicate with another neuron. Yes, whether the information in this neuron should go to this neuron or not, that will be indicated. So it is just like a lock and key. If I have, there's a lock in this one. If I have a key, I can open the door and get inside the room. Or the people who inside the room can go outside. So that is decided by what key I have. And there are two types of channels actually. There are glutamate acceptable and NMDA channel and non-NMDA receptors. In this one, actually, when you consider this non-NMDA receptor, which is having a block, see here, what actually happens is axon from CA3 neurons that terminate on CA1 neurons use glutamate as a neuron their transmitter. These neurons have both NMDA and non-NMDA receptors, to which actually there is a bonding known as glutamate. Both of them, glutamate is required. But in NMDA channels, there is an additional block which is known as Mg++, which is means to say that a room has one key, one lock, I can open with one key. If the room has two locks, I have only one key, then I'll not be able to open the room because another lock I cannot open. Like this, there is non-NMDA receptor which can be directly opened by this glutamate. Moment when the glutamate is released, this will open the non-NMDA receptors. Then what happens? All the K plus ions which are inside the cell will go outside, and all the Na plus ions which are outside the cell will come inside, and that the message from cell 1 will get transmitted to cell 2. Okay, this is non-NMDA receptor, and it will communication will happen directly. Okay, there is no moment when glutamate is released, so communication will happen. This is the direct way. But look here. But the second way, the NMDA receptor channel is uniquely double-gated channel. It is blocked by Mg++. So if you simply release glutamate, it is not going to work. So you have to remove the Mg++ block also. See, that is shown clearly in the second diagram. And for this, what happens? Na plus K plus communication is not there, but the communication is via Ca plus and K plus. Is it clear to you? Any doubt here? What actually happens is, moment when glutamate is released, and it is checked whether what is the activities in the cells, that is presynaptic neurons and postsynaptic neurons also. If the activities cross certain threshold, what is going to happen is Mg ions decouple from the channels only postsynaptic cell is sufficiently depolarized. So this is a original neuron. This neuron wants to transmit the information to the second neuron, and it will check whether it is sufficiently depolarized. When it is sufficiently depolarized, then only this gate will get opened by Mg++. When the Mg++ gate will be open, then release of the glutamate will enable the communication between presynaptic and postsynaptic neuron. That is, whatever ions here, they can go outside, and whatever ions here, they can come back. Once these K++ ions will go outside and Ca++ will enter here. Look at the difference between here. In non-NMDA channels, communication is between Na plus and K+. In NMDA channels, communication is between Ca++ and K++. However, Na plus ions are also there, but majority contribution will come from Ca++ ions. Okay, so the NMDA channels can be unblocked only when glutamate binding to the receptor. This should happen, and postsynaptic cell must be sufficiently depolarized. Only under these two circumstances, the binding will get closed and you will be able to communicate between the two neurons. Okay, so this influx of calcium is very much essential for LTP. If you want to have long-term potentiation, long-term memory, calcium must be fed into this one. So activation of non-NMDA channel depolarizes the dendrites and this removes the lock, and then what happens, those calcium ions enter into the cells, and once they enter, they will activate the two proteins, which is the protein kinases, they are called in biological term, calmodulin kinase and protein kinase. These two kinases are get activated, and that will initiate the LTP. So, and what happens? This will just initiate the LTP. Information just starts to register, but it will not get continued. See here, one very simple analogy I can give you. It is suppose you start the vehicle. Starting of the vehicle doesn't mean you complete the journey. So vehicle should be engine should be continuously running. Then only you will reach the destination. Here also, just the Ca plus ions enter into the cell will simply release the two protein, calmodulin kinase and protein kinase, which will just start the induction. And after that, what happens? The continuation of this LTP request, post-synaptic events, and maintenance request, pre-synaptic event. So what I told you, the neuron must be continuously fired by the previous neuron and associative neurons, then only it is going to learn. So whatever process the Ca plus and K plus has initiated must be continued from this same neuron once again. So it keeps firing so that this gate keeps opening and Ca plus and K plus will get interchanged. This should repetitively happen. Only when this repetitively happens, the LTP gets established. Okay. So once the LTP gets established in this one, it gets stored as another information, and the information from the next neuron to the previous neuron should also happen. Means the firing neuron will come to know what is the stage of the second neuron. This is done by this message is carried by calcium activated retrograde transmitter. Retro means past. So what is the state of the neuron, what I am firing will be known by the basic neuron, by the retrograde transmitter. The neuron which gets trained will transmit back the information which are shown you here. See here, this is actually the retrograde transmission will get transmitted to the this previous neuron, so that this information will come to know at one point it stops firing, understanding that this neuron has also understood the LTP information. Okay, so once this gets complete information, this can be used to train the another neuron. This is how each neuron modifies the immediate next neuron, so that the entire memory, whatever you are learned, is stored in group of memory, in group of neurons. Are you able to follow this one? Any doubt here? Any doubt, Jendra?
No, sir.
Okay, this is all biology, but basically understand how actually continuous memory, that is posting of continuous memory, will happen and initiated, and this is process is continued, so that it will form a permanent memory. Once you form the permanent memory, how we look actually as an electronics engineer? So the Hebbian learning principle, that is firing of one neuron repetitively by the another neuron, so that the second neuron also learns whatever the first neuron has already learned, is used in associative memory. Associative memory is not a single memory, but a group of memory. Okay, now the dynamics of the system can be visualized by imagining a high dimensional undulating energy surface. See here, one very simple analogy I can give you. Let us take a surface which has many curves. Okay, for example, a rubber sheet, but the rubber sheet is not plain. It has many ups and downs. So such is, let us say, is your surface. Suppose that I put a ball on one particular part of the rubber surface. What will happen actually? the rubber sheet has many ups and downs. Okay, at one point I put a ball. What will happen to the ball? What will happen to the ball? Huh? Anybody?
Sir, the rubber will be bent little.
No, ball is very smooth. It is not. So the ball will settle at one place where it is minimum. Okay, it will not go to upside. It will go to downside. So it will set in the minimum. So it's suppose there are many minimums in that rubber sheet. Okay, there are many maximums and many minimums. What I can tell is those minimum points in the rubber sheet will act as the memory units. That's how we model in the neural network. So we find multiple neurons, and each neuron is said to have a neuron will coincide into certain sections which have minima. So those minima are called as Lyapunov energy surface, which have the minimum surface. So the network is trained to identify such minimum energy states, and those are used as memory points. Okay, that is how we try to remember the previously happened things. This is how we model the neural network. Okay, so this is what actually is the basis of attractor neural networks. Attractor neural networks basically for the computation which involves the previous memory. We try to remember whatever has happened in the past. So once we remember the past, we will use it in the computation of the future points. So it is actually a memory. It's a unit is entirely basically about memory. Okay. Any doubt till now? Are you able to follow today's discussion?
हाँ sir.
Okay.